My name's Christopher and I'm a funeral director and embalmer here. I've been doing this for 9 years. To put that in perspective, I've been doing this job and what I'm going to describe and show you later since you were in, what, grade 5? And this is Clayton's. It's a funeral home. I know. And this is the front steps to a funeral home, and that's the front door to a funeral home. I know I'm stating the obvious, but it's kind of important because like any other building in Quesnel that has a single purpose, like the hospital or the library, people don't come here to buy the iPhone 12 that's probably going to weigh about 60 pounds and have a huge screen and not work any better than the last one did. People don't come here to buy curtains. If someone's coming up these steps and going through that door, it's usually because someone very important to them, someone they love, has died. And when that's the case, this suddenly becomes a very long flight of steps. And that is the world's heaviest door. Maybe because I'm an old soldier out of some sense of honor, I never leave the building or enter it through this door, because I don't think I've earned that right. And you guys this morning won't have to worry about that, because for our purposes today, you're all dead. And the dead enter the building this way. And this will be your ride. This is a transfer van. It's nothing as fancy as an ambulance by any means, mainly because we don't have any life-saving equipment. It's got a couple of cots for different situations that we might run into. Body bags, of course. The emergency equipment we have in that bag is personal protection equipment for us to protect us from you. Clayton's holds the contract with the coroner service. 24 hours a day, 365 days a year, my phone can ring and myself and a partner will jump in this van and go to the scene of your accident. This is usually after the ambulance has been there, the police have cleared the scene. Highway Rescue may have been there or may assist us in retrieving you from your vehicle. Highway Rescue is a bunch of volunteers in our community, your neighbors and your friends and co-workers. And they're valuable partners for us. Depending on the scene and because of some strange twist of fate, I've been the guy 99% of the time that's actually gone into the vehicle and held a young man or a young lady in my arms and taken them from the vehicle, placed them in a body bag and placed them on my cot in here. It's nothing I relish. It's my calling, it's my duty, it's my job. But there's a million things I'd rather be doing. But when called upon, that's what I must do. We have different cots because there's going to be different situations, just like the ambulance attendant described earlier, where you may have to be recovered from down an embankment. That's often where Highway Rescue will help us, and we'll help them, because I've had an awful lot of experience getting people out of cars. And way too many of those people have been young. Far, far too many. Some of them your older brothers and sisters would know. From here, we take you to the morgue, which you're going to see later. And from the morgue, we also get the call to take you to usually Prince George, where if you were driving the vehicle and died, you will be autopsied. And I think you probably can search YouTube and the internet and find out what an autopsy is all about. I don't need to describe it to you here. After that, again in one of these vans, we take you back to the morgue, and then when we're called upon by the coroner and your family, we go to the morgue again and bring you here. So here you are. You've been to Prince George for an autopsy. We will recover you from the accident scene. We've taken you to Prince George for autopsy. Your family's contacted us and you've been released by the coroner into our care. And here you are on a cot very much like the one that's in the van, in a body bag. On this body bag will be written a number, something along the lines of 2015-0607-0084. However, the minute you're through that door, you're Sanjeev, you're Richard, you're Melissa, you're a person, with a name, and I will call you by that name. When I move you from this cot onto this board and place a name tag on you, I have a headrest for you. If I accidentally bump your head, I will apologize to you out loud using your name. Why? Because I'm crazy? Well, I think that's self-evident. However, by calling you by your name and addressing you as a person, I reinforce your humanity. And by doing so, I also reinforce my own. Because it doesn't matter whether you're in our care at 2 days old or 102 years old, you're always someone's baby. And we treat you accordingly. Does anybody want to hazard a guess at what's behind door number 1 here? And don't say employees, because I know it's funny, but that's not who's in there. Anyone? People. This is a working funeral home. There are people on the other side of that door. And yes, it's a cool room. It's refrigerated. You know enough at this point about biology to understand why we did that. Can any of you think of a reason why I can't open that door and show you who's in there?
Violates their privacy.
Exactly, it violates their privacy, their dignity, the right to the person to have their identity and their situation protected by confidentiality. That's one of my sacred trusts. And I treat you accordingly, because eventually you're going to be in there and your parents are going to have walked up those stairs and entered that door. And one of us will be sitting across the table from them, trying to figure out what to do next. When they do arrive, I have 3 things I can offer them. First of all, despite the Darth Vader voice, I'm a human being and have had life experiences of my own that lend me some extra skills in what I do here. A lot of people in this industry end up here either because they had an extremely negative experience around death and thought they could come here and make a difference, or they had a positive one and also thought they could make a difference. Either way, our life experience brought us here. Very few people come right out of high school into a job like this. Very few people would be prepared to. For those vocationally minded among you, it's a 2-year apprenticeship. Simultaneously, you work full-time and school full-time. It finishes with a thesis that's equivalent of what you'd need to prepare for a 4-year degree, and there's many people that says it is a condensed 4-year degree while you're working. And the hours here can be extreme, to say the least. So we're human beings with a life experience, and the second thing we have is our knowledge that we gained through for the 2 years of school, working with our peers, and experiences serving other families that may have been in similar situations. We can help your parents or whoever's here to represent your interests make the best decisions possible at the worst time in their lives. I know you can imagine in your hearts and your minds what they may be going through. It's never easy. The best thing I can do, the best feeling I can get, is to have a family leave this building in better shape than when they came in, with as few regrets as possible in the areas that at least I can help them with, by equipping them with my knowledge and my compassion to make the best possible decisions. And the third thing I have to offer them is time. And a cool room offers time. Biology 101 again. Also, I slow down time for them the best I can, because they are going to be frantic and think everything has to be done within the next 24 hours, and it just doesn't. So we slow things down so that they, once again, they can make the best possible decisions with the most knowledge and walk away from here with as few regrets as possible. So with those 3 things in mind, we figure out together with me supporting them to make the best choices they can to reflect their values and your personality on how to say goodbye and how to move on. A process of which begins here. Now, in terms of time, you may have friends, relatives serving overseas in the military, maybe spread across the country for other reasons, family interests, jobs, whatever, and they may take a while to get here. And them or the people in town, they may want to see you. If that's the case, then you'll probably come in here. So come on in. This is the prep room. Sometimes called the embalming room, but I prefer prep room because it's things other than embalming going in here. Does anybody here think they know anything, just a wild guess what embalming's about?
Preserving a dead body.
That is part of it. There's 3 principal reasons for embalming. The first is, according to the textbooks and the regulations, to make the body safe for personal contact with other people, living people. Now, when you die, your immune system dies along with you. So for all of that bacteria and the viruses and everything else living in you, some of which are symbiotic, some of which can become pathogenic, it's party time. So there's nothing to arrest them from having a great old time. And we all know what happens for that. I don't need to explain it. It's disgusting. Also, the second thing we do is, as you said, preservation. Using the chemicals around, which I won't go into detail explaining, the machine, an embalming machine, and the procedures that I employ. On a molecular level, I alter your tissues to a form that's no longer considered food by those bacteria, and simultaneously I destroy those bacteria and those viruses. And the third thing, reason for having someone embalmed is restoration, particularly for young people who have been in car accidents. You know from the videos you've seen and probably things you may have seen on the internet before, and those x-rays in the boardroom that you may have seen earlier, and the video from the police, that the human body is a pretty delicate piece of kit. When it's decelerated from 120 kilometers per hour to 0 in a matter of seconds and hits something solid. I have and I can fix the damage, the results from that trauma, that insult to your body, so that at least on a good day, I could have you look as good as you look now, if not better. And I could go into the chemicals, various colors, why they're that way, what the machine does. I could show you a needle that would make someone from an ER nurse faint, but I'm not. Because most of this isn't really about the how, it's about the why. And why would we do this? Later you're going to go to the morgue. Sometimes when you're in the morgue, as a result of a traumatic accident, someone may have to identify you. Fortunately, that doesn't happen as often as it used to. But as you could imagine, that's not the last memory you'd want someone to have of you. In that place and in that condition. In this room, I can fix that situation. And in my chapel or a place like it, your mother could sit beside you while you're on a bed or in a casket and hold your hand and brush the hair from your face and tell you she's sorry and she loves you. Those are the words I most often hear in those situations. Because you're still loved and you always will be. And we will all be sorry. Myself, Brian, Amy's attendants, the police on scene, when a young person comes into our care far sooner than they ought. It wounds us deeply. It hurt so much that many of us wanted to quit this program. I certainly did. Megan Vopel was here. And her parents gave us permission to use her name so that perhaps her memory could save lives. And it's because of their example and the impact that Megan had upon all of us that I'm still here. Because ultimately I came to realize that your lives were more important than my feelings, and that I should keep doing this no matter what the cost. So that's the why. It's why we embalm, and it's why you're on this tour with me. Thanks. Welcome to your funeral. If that was the case, be your picture on my screen behind me. Under that would be your name, the date of your birth, and the date of your death. On this table, perhaps in an urn like that one, would be your cremated remains, if that's the choice that your parents made. Or perhaps you'd be laid out here in a casket. Maybe last night, your friends and your family came for visitation to see you, to be with you, to have a private goodbye before the main service was happened today. Sitting over there would be your immediate family, your parents and siblings, closest friends. Sitting where you are now would be other friends and from school, from work, from the community, your extracurricular activities, neighbors, members of the community of Quesnel, perhaps the odd school principal, an ambulance attendant, a nurse, ambulance driver, maybe even a teacher, maybe even a funeral director. For whatever the reason, each have their own. A community comes together, family and friends and neighbors, to support each other. Each individual having a very singular pain, a hole in their heart in the shape of you. That this event is usually a first step in a process of healing that hole. And most people will never succeed fully because there is only one you, unique and irreplaceable in all the history of the universe. And I can't overemphasize that, because part of what I've just said was a lie. Your funeral will never be in this building. You know why? Because it's too small. Someone your age dies, we could never have a funeral in this building because it's too small. We'd have to have a large theater or something the size of North Star Church. What this means is you're important as you are now. You're perfect. Whatever you may think of yourself, your self-esteem, personal realization, I can guarantee each and every one of you that you're more cared for, more appreciated, and more loved by more people than you'll ever understand, and by more and more cared for and more loved by everyone around you than we'll ever have the courage to make you understand. It is particularly tragic when a young person dies because they're not alive to see the proof of that love that shows up when that building is full at the time of their death. We're all going to die. There's no way of escaping it. It's part of life. And people throughout all of human history, much smarter than myself, have thought deeply about it, and most have come to the conclusion that without a finite existence, the time we do spend here would be relatively meaningless. So none of us are going to tell you not to have a good life. In fact, that's what we're here for. We want you to have a long and fulfilling life. All your dreams and aspirations to come true. And for you to have as many moments as fun as you can, all along the way of that journey. We just want to make it to the end at an appropriate age, in an appropriate way, and not a result of something ridiculously silly and as tragic as using one of these while you're driving. I know from personal experience how dangerous that can be, and from having to attend too many accidents where a cell phone was found open on the floor and on in mid-text. Texting, according to the statistics, now kills more people than drinking and driving. There is no message from your BFF that's worth your life, or anyone else's for that matter. And there are worse things than dying. I know from personal experience what it's like to phone my mother at 3 o'clock in the morning to come and pick me up from someplace I wasn't supposed to be, and have to deal with her wrath and the embarrassment and the grounding. So I'm no angel. But there's not a parent on this planet that would rather get that phone call than have to come to a place like this and see your face on a screen like this one. Nor is there a principal or a funeral director that wouldn't rather get that call. My new boss says, phone us. The funeral home has a 24-hour line and someone who's expected to wake up and answer it. We also have someone who's expected to wake up 24 hours a day with a phone call to go somewhere. I would rather pick you up alive than dead. So if you're ever stuck, because I don't know what relationship you have with your parents or what your life situation is. I didn't come from a great home or a great neighborhood. So call Brian, call me, call somebody if you can't call your parents. But call someone so that I don't get a call on your behalf. It's the best thing you could ever do for me. It's the greatest favor I could ask of you. And all this involves using your superpower, because I think you're all superheroes. And your superpower is choice. And the choices in the next 4 years are going to be very tough. It's hard to say no to your boyfriend when he wants to get in the car and you know he smoked a joint or two, maybe a beer. I know how hard it is to wrestle your brother to the ground and pry those keys from his hands, because I had to do it on a number of occasions. I know the personal embarrassment of having to admit that I was too drunk to drive, or being the one being wrestled to the ground and have the keys pried from my fingers because I was too stupid to plan ahead and too proud to admit it. By some luck, twist of fate, and maybe the right decision at the right time, I'm here and alive to tell you all of this. But just as easily I might not have been, because none of us, and believe me, I know this better than anyone in this town, none of us is invincible. And the natural consequences of dangerous choices involving a motor vehicle are catastrophic. So the only one thing I ask from you is to go and have a wonderful and long life. Make your dreams come true. And make sure that the call I get is not to come and pick you up, dead, but alive. Because we want you alive, because we love you and we care. And we don't want to have to prove it at your funeral. Thank you for coming. You better get back to the hospital.